Annas and Caiaphas, and Sumas, and Tatam, Gamaliel, Judas, Levi, Naphtali and other Jews, went to Pilate about Jesus, accusing him with many bad crimes, and said, "We are assured that Jesus is the son of Joseph the carpenter, and born of Mary, and that he declares himself the Son of God. And not only so, but he attempts the dissolution of the Sabbath, and the laws of our fathers." Pilate replied, "What is it which he declares? And what is it which he attempts dissolving?" The Jews told him, "We have a law which forbids doing cures on the Sabbath day, but he cures both the lame and the deaf, those afflicted with palsy, the blind and lepers, and demoniacs, on that day by wicked methods." Then said Pilate, "Casting out devils seems not to be the work of an unclean spirit, but to proceed from the power of God." The Jews replied to Pilate, "We entreat your highness to summon him to appear before your tribunal, and hear him yourself." Then Pilate called a messenger and said to him, "By what means will Christ be brought hither?" Then went the messenger forth, and knowing Christ, worshipped him. And having spread the cloak which he had in his hand upon the ground, he said, "Lord, walk upon this, and go in, for the governor calls thee." When the Jews perceived what the messenger had done, they exclaimed against him to Pilate, and said, "Why did you not give him his summons by a beadle, and not by a messenger?" For the messenger, when he saw him, he worshipped him, and spread the cloak which he had in his hand upon the ground before him, and said to him, "Lord, the governor calls thee." Then Pilate called the messenger, and said, "Why hast thou done thus?" The messenger replied, "When thou sent me from Jerusalem to Alexander, I saw Jesus sitting in a mean figure upon a she-ass, and the children of the Hebrews cried out, Hosanna, holding boughs of trees in their hands. Others spread their garments in the way, and said, Save us, thou who art in heaven. Blessed is the one cometh in the name of the Lord. Then the Jews cried out against the messenger, and said, The children of the Hebrews made their acclamations in the Hebrew language. And how can thou, who art a Greek, understand Hebrew? The messenger answered them and said, I asked one of the Jews and said, What is this which the children do cry out in the Hebrew language? And he explained it to me, saying, They cry out Hosanna, which being interpreted, is, O Lord, save me, or O Lord, save. Pilate then said to them, Why do you yourselves testify to the words spoken by the children, namely, by your silence? And what has the messenger done amiss? And they were silent. Then the governor said unto the messenger, Go forth and endeavor by any means to bring him in. But the messenger went forth, and did as before, and said, Lord, come in, for the governor calleth thee. And as Jesus was going in by the ensigns, who carried the standards, the tops of them bowed down and worshipped Jesus. Whereupon the Jews exclaimed more vehemently against the ensigns. But Pilate said to the Jews, I know it is not pleasing to you that the tops of the standards did of themselves bow and worship Jesus. But why do you exclaim against the ensigns, as if they had bowed and worshipped? They replied to Pilate, We saw the ensigns themselves bowing and worshipping Jesus. Then the governor called on the ensigns and said to them, Why did you do thus? The ensigns said to Pilate, We are all pagans and worship the gods of the temples. And how should we think anything about worshipping him? We only held the standards in our hands, and they bowed themselves and worshipped him. Then said Pilate to the rulers of the synagogue, Do ye yourselves choose some strong men, and let them hold the standards, and we shall see whether they will then bend of themselves. So the elders of the Jews sought out 12 of the most strong and able old men, and made them hold the standards, and they stood in the presence of the governor. Then Pilate said to the messenger, Take Jesus out, and by some means bring him in again. And Jesus and the messenger went out of the hall. And Pilate called the ensigns, who before had borne the standards, and swore to them, that if they had not borne the standards in that manner when Jesus before entered in, he would cut off their heads. Then the governor commanded Jesus to come in again. And the messenger did as he had done before, and very much entreated Jesus that he would go upon his cloak, and walk on it. And he did walk upon it, and went in. And when Jesus went in, the standards bowed themselves and worshipped him. Now, when Pilate saw this, he was afraid, and was about to rise from his seat. But while he thought to rise, his own wife stood at a distance, sent to him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man? For I have suffered much concerning him in a vision this night. When the Jews heard this, they said to Pilate, Did we not say unto thee, He is a conjurer? Behold, he hath caused thy wife to dream. Pilate then calling Jesus, said, Thou hast heard what they testify against thee, and makest no answer. Jesus replied, If they had not a power of speaking, they could not have spoke. But because everyone has the command of his own tongue, to speak both good and bad, let him look to it. But the elders of the Jews answered, and said to Jesus, What shall we look to? In the first place, we know this concerning thee, that thou wast born through fornication. That upon the account of thy birth the infants were slain in Bethlehem. Thirdly, that thy father and mother Mary fled into Egypt, because they could not trust their own people. Some of the Jews who stood by spake favorably, We cannot say that he was born through fornication, but we know that his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, and so he was not born through fornication. Then said Pilate to the Jews who affirmed him to be born through fornication, This your account is not true, seeing there was a betrothment, as they testify who of your own nation. Annas and Caiaphas spake to Pilate, All this multitude of people is to be regarded, who cry out, that he was born through fornication, and is a conjurer, but they who deny him to be born through fornication, are his proselytes and disciples. Pilate answered Annas and Caiaphas, Who are the proselytes? They answered, They are those who are the children of pagans, and are not become Jews, but followers of him. Then replied Eleazar, and Asterius, and Antonius, and James, Charis and Samuel, Isaac and Phinehas, Crispus and Agrippa, Annas and Judas, We are not proselytes, but children of Jews, and speak the truth, and were present when Mary was betrothed. Then Pilate, addressing himself to the 12 men who spoke this, said to them, I conjure you by the life of Caesar, that ye faithfully declare whether he was born through fornication, and those things be true which ye have related. They answered Pilate, We have a law, whereby we are forbid to swear. It being a sin, let them swear by the life of Caesar that it is not as we have said, and we will be contented to be put to death. Then said Annas and Caiaphas to Pilate, Those 12 men will not believe that we know him to be basely born, and to be a conjurer, although he pretends that he is the Son of God, and a king, which we are so far from believing, that we tremble to hear. Then Pilate commanded everyone to go out except the 12 men who said he was not born through fornication, and Jesus to withdraw to a distance, and said to them, Why have the Jews mind to kill Jesus? They answered him, They are angry because he wrought cures on the Sabbath day. Pilate said, Will they kill him for good work? They say unto him, Yes, sir.